Well, good morning. I'm Pastor Dana. I'm going to be your guide this morning as we look at the scriptures and look at some insights from the 12 rules of life, Dr. Jordan Peterson. And today we're up to rule number 8. I have a picture of kids playing hide and seek. When you think about hide and seek, basically, it's a game of deception. You're hiding and finding different ways to hide so that no one can find you. And isn't it interesting that hide and seek is probably the most popular game for little kids? I mean, starting from a very early age. And it was the first game that the first humans ever played. Adam and Eve, hiding from God in the garden. And one of the things that we discover is that you can't hide from God because God knows the truth. It's good to have a picture of young children up there because we are born to lie. At least that's what it looks like to me. Studies have been done with 3-year-olds, and they play what's called a temptation game. There's a great book called Nurture Shock. And if you're a parent or grandparent of little kids, or if you're a teacher, by all means, get that book. It's Mo Bryson, Nurture Shock, because it basically takes the things we think we know about children and it turns them upside down. And I had a chance to go through that book and study that with our preschool director, with Miss Christie. And we got a kick out of that because it's kind of showed us some things that we hadn't realized about kids. And this is one of them right here, about lying and children. So these studies are done. They take 3-year-olds and they play what's called a temptation game. And that just simply means that they'll take an item. I think they took like a police car, and then they put it behind a screen, and then they played the sound and said, "What is that?" And then they go, "I don't know." And then they figured it out. It's a police car, and they'll say, "Ta-da, it's a police car." And then they did that again with something else. I think it was a bell or something, and then they said, "What is that?" "Oh, it's a bell." And then the teacher put a soccer ball behind the screen. And then she said, "Oh, excuse me, I'll be right back, honey. I got to go out of the room." Guess what happens? 1/3 of the 3-year-olds peeked when they were instructed not to. And the funny thing about 3-year-olds, though, is that all of them admitted to it. So now don't you look behind that screen, but they admitted to it. But guess what? They did the same study with 4-year-olds. 80% of 4-year-olds peeked. And 80% of them lied when they were asked if they had peeked. That 1 year, isn't that something? Wow. See, here's a big problem. And this is something I hadn't realized. I learned this after reading this book and looking at some other research. Did you know that we cannot tell when children lie? We think we can. Especially we think we can with our own kids. But adults cannot tell when children lie. And all of the studies that they keep doing repeat the same thing. For example, each year in the United States, we have 100,000 children testifying in court. And what they're testifying is usually about abuse cases or custody battles, right? 100,000 kids testifying in court every year. And these children always have somebody coaching them in their story. Doesn't matter how old they are. Well, several different studies, they did a study and then they've duplicated it several times. And what they found is adults don't know if kids are telling the truth or not. So good luck. You go to court and you have a kid testifying. I'm going to show you. This is just like fascinating. What they did is they took a bullying, and they told the kids about. They did 7 to 11-year-olds, and they coached them about an incident of bullying that didn't really happen. And then they had the kids being interviewed about the incident. And what they found was astounding. First of all, they found that adults can't tell if kids are lying or not. But here are adults that should be able to tell, right? Because they're the ones that are in those court systems and all that. Police officers who had been trained in being able to tell if if somebody that they have in custody is lying or not. Police officers, 45% of the time, they could tell if the kid was lying or not. In other words, 45% of the time they were right about the truth. That means 55% of the time they're wrong. They didn't realize the kid was lying. Customs officials, they use customs officials that are there for like in immigration. If kids come with adults, a lot of times what they'll do is adults will bring other kids and all that, kind of like because they can make money off of it. So to be able to tell, is that really that kid's parent? So these immigration officials, they're trained in studying every nuance of a child. Guess what? 45%. Only 45% were able to tell if they were telling the truth or not. 55% were wrong. Parents. Okay, if you're a parent or a grandparent, come on. Don't you think you can tell if your kid is lying or not, especially a younger kid, right? 50%. It's a little better. The best people who are able to tell if children are lying or not, a whopping 60%. That means 4 out of 10 times they were wrong. I wouldn't want to put my, my guilt or innocence on that. But anyway, guess who are the best at telling if kids are lying or not? No. Teachers. But the problem in that is, in the study, the teachers, by far, almost 100% said, I'll know if they're lying. 60%. So basically, what this really means is that if a kid's testifying in a court of law, you're better off just flipping a coin. In the case of police and customs officials, you'll actually get the truth more often, right? 45-45. But you're better off flipping a coin. And this is astounding because it wasn't just that we're wrong, it's that we're biased. Okay, you know what the bias was with all these different groups of adults? Guess what the bias was? Do boys lie more or girls lie more? Overwhelmingly, they thought boys lie more. Wrong. Girls lie just as much as boys do. Okay, here's a good one. How about younger children lie more than older children? Just the opposite. You become better at it. Why stop? See, kids don't grow out of lying. They grow into it. 4-year-olds lie. What they did is they did a study. They'd have cameras, hidden cameras, and they were watching kids at their home with the parents' permission. I mean, this is a study, right? Anyway, they were watching the kids at home, and guess what they found out? 4-year-olds lie. How often? How often do you think? How many times an hour? Yeah. They lie once every 2 hours. Doesn't seem so bad, right? Once every 2 hours? 6-year-olds, once every hour. Doubles with age. Isn't that interesting? And I know this because I asked our 6-year-old granddaughter, this was several weeks ago, she had done something to her sister, da-da-da. And I said, are you lying to me? And her response is this. I should put this up as a banner. I never lie. I only lie when I don't want things to happen. Now that's the truth. But in all of these studies, what they found out with thousands and thousands of children, 96% of children lie to their parents. 96%. And 1/3 of kids who are still lying by age 7 guess what happens? They get hooked. They'll lie more and more the rest of their life. So anybody you know as an adult who's a blatant liar, you can be assured that by age 7, they found out this works. They don't grow out of it, they grow into it. See, one of the things that needs to be done is we need to teach kids the worth of honesty just as much as we need to tell them that lying is wrong. See, here's the best thing you can do with a kid, according to these researchers, is it's to say, I won't get upset if you've lied, but telling the truth makes me happy. Okay? So in other words, with children, pleasing their parents is more important than protecting themselves from the consequences of their lie. But you don't say, if you lie, you're going to get in trouble, and I'm going to punish you. And it's so interesting. In this study, they took the classic George Washington chopping down the cherry tree story. And, we think, oh, that's so, first of all, probably never happened, or whatever. Or that's so silly. They had like 70, 80% of the kids lied less after hearing that story. But then you thought, well, that's because they know who George Washington is. Well, no, they did this story and they just put other people in there. It didn't matter. Because what happened in that story, remember? Did you do that? I cannot tell a lie. And it's like, I'm not going to punish you, but I want to know, I want to know if you tell the truth. I'm not going to punish you. Please tell the truth. And so this is really helpful for us because kids learn from us. And one of the things that we've got to realize is there's no such thing as a good lie. Okay? We have these things, and I forgot. I forgot, now that you got the internet, you can find out anything. I forgot to look up, why do we call it a white lie? Okay? But anyway, we have these things that we call white lies, which are little lies. It's okay, just telling a little lie. And what we don't realize is when we tell kids little tiny lies, we encourage them to be disingenuous. And then they learn that it helps. Especially helps that if they lie, there won't be so much conflict, They don't get in trouble. And so what happens in their little brains, and it stays with us the rest of our lives, is that honesty equals conflict. So I'd rather not say anything because I don't want to get in trouble or I don't want conflict to happen. There's no such thing as a good lie. And another big problem comes up with parents and teachers especially. Parents and teachers are 10 times more likely to chastise a child for tattling than they are for lying. You know what that means? Basically setting up kids to learn to put up with evil and to put up with falsehood because, what's the equivalent of the death penalty for an 8-year-old? Getting ostracized on the playground, right? So if you're a tattletale and you go tell the teacher on so-and-so, it's the death penalty for you. So you learn as you get older not to do that. And then as adults, we do the same thing. We don't speak the truth when the truth needs to be spoken. Well, welcome to rule number 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Now remember the beginning stories of our ancestors. Adam and Eve. They lie to God. Then they play hide and seek in the garden. And they feel weak. And they know they've done something wrong. Next, Cain and Abel. Adam and Eve's children. Cain tricks Abel through deception to go out into the field with him. And he kills him. And then Cain returns and lies to God about it. God says, "Where is Abel, your brother?" Cain says, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" And the lying continues. And we get better and better at it. The Bible doesn't speak of telling the truth that much. You find that out, like if you type in truth. It doesn't talk about telling the truth that much. It talks about lying. The main reason is truth can be difficult to pin down. I mean, in other words, I could say, tell the truth, and I tell something I think is true, but it's really not. But I don't know that, right? Because I only have a finite amount of capability to understand. So there is truth, but when I'm speaking, I don't necessarily speak 100% of the truth because I don't know if it's really true or not. Ultimately, I might be biased. I might have my facts wrong. However, we can all not lie. So that's why Peterson, he realizes this. So that's why this rule is tell the truth or at least don't lie. Wow. We know what lying is, and we can stop doing that. Now, God gives Moses the 10 Commandments, right? And there are other passages of Scripture where God helps Moses understand what those 10 Commandments mean. So there's other rules in Scripture, other laws in Scripture, besides just those 10, obviously. Here's one from Leviticus. This is chapter 19, verse 11. It says, do not steal, but then it says, do not lie, do not deceive one another. No lying, no deceiving. It's all part of the same mess. It's about being in a healthy relationship with God and with each other. Because honesty is what builds relationships. Trust builds relationships. You break trust or honesty, relationships fall apart. They fall apart with God, and they fall apart with each other. And there are no exceptions. Trust is absolutely necessary to live a godly life. This means truth is absolutely necessary. See, we talk about little lies or white lies, of our childhood, but what happens is actually we just build bigger and bigger lies. And the problem with lying is it's a hydra. Remember Hydra? Remember the Hercules? When he had to fight the Hydra, and this is a beast with a whole bunch of different snake's heads. And every time that Hercules would cut the Hydra's head off, 2 more heads would grow back. This is what happens to us when we lie. Tell one lie, and then you'll have to tell another lie. And then you're going to have to tell another lie to cover up for that lie. And then you're going to have to tell another one and another one and another one. And the lying becomes more complex. And then we start changing definitions of words we use, saying, well, I didn't really mean that word, but this is the word, this is what I really meant about that word, and I don't know what that word means to you, but it means this to me. No. It's a big ball of lies. Lie after lie after lie. Mark Twain had the best advice. You know what he said? He said, tell the truth, and you don't have to remember what you said. Wow, do we live in a day and age where that would be helpful, huh? You don't have to remember what you said if you tell the truth. But lying and deceiving are so much a part of the landscape of our lives that we need to step back, and we need to be honest with ourselves. Lying is the road to hell. Both your own hell and the hell you bring into the lives of those around you. Now, why do I say that? How does that happen? Because Jesus is the truth. In fact, it's one of the nicknames Jesus gives to himself. His name he doesn't go, hey, call me Buster, or call me the big guy or whatever. He says, call me the way. Call me the truth. Call me the life. Even Jesus himself gives himself nicknames. I always thought that's kind of fascinating. Hey, truth, what's up? But then he says this, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Or towards the end of his life, before he's crucified, he says to Pilate, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Meaning, what he testifies is truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. That's it. That's the key to life. If you don't seek the truth, you will always find yourself outside of the power of Jesus, because Jesus is the truth, and you will be less of a person than you were created to be. Because, see, he made you. So if you don't seek the truth, you're going to be less of who you are made to be. So in a real sense, to lie is to slowly destroy yourself. Now, the world, of course, tells us something different. Peterson talks about this. I'm quoting him here. You can't use words to manipulate the world. Yes, you can. You can use words to manipulate the world into delivering what you want. This is what it means to act politically. This is spin. It's the specialty of unscrupulous marketers, salesmen, advertisers, pickup artists, slogan-possessed utopians, and psychopaths. It's the speech people engage in when they attempt to influence and manipulate others. It's what everyone does when they want something and decide to falsify themselves to please and flatter. It's scheming and sloganeering and propaganda. All right, so this morning, I decided not to emphasize the lying that goes on today in every arena of our lives, because I could be talking all day on that. You either have people who are lying or people who are ignoring the fact that people are lying. That's basically the rule of thumb today in our public sphere. They're either lying or they're ignoring that people are lying. You see, we live in a shameful age that ignores seeking the truth. And there is a price to be paid for all of this. When you lie and manipulate and deceive, you bring shame on yourself. But again, what you may not realize is that you're destroying yourself. You're cursing yourself, and you're living in hell. But there is no excuse, because we already know lying makes us feel weak. Anytime we ever lie, we don't feel right. There's something that happens within us. And sure enough, lying is an anxiety-producing experience. Is it making me weak and fragmented, or is it making me stronger? That's kind of a question to ask before you say anything. Is this making me feel weak, or is it making me feel stronger? And you know what? You don't, when I'm saying Jesus is the truth and Jesus claims to be the truth, you don't have to be a believer to know this, because God gives us all a lie detector. It's called our conscience. Romans chapter 1. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. See, our conscience is given to us from God, and our conscience steps in before we lie. I mean, we have all these cute little cartoon things. You know, you got a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other. But literally, this is what we do have. It doesn't matter if you know God or not. Your conscience steps up to the plate when you're lying. I like to think of that as we all possess like a radar, okay? A radar for our own lying. And we can cultivate this. And so it comes back again. How do I tell the truth? Or at least, how do I stop lying? All right, so we're going to look at that. So Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Here's what we can do. First thing, stop lying. It's kind of hard, because there's many times we'll lie because we don't want to, quote, hurt people's feelings. All right, here's the classic example. I don't know if this ever has really happened in life, but the classic example is when your wife says to you, does this dress make me look fat? That's the number one question, right? But I don't know. Has any woman ever said that to her husband? I mean, we know enough about that question, okay. So, what do? Ladies, don't ask questions like that. Amen? You don't have to lie. All you got to do is just put the attention elsewhere. So, do I look fat in that dress? That's really a great color on you. I didn't lie. Boom. Well, that question's not asked in our house. My wife keeps losing weight, so the dresses don't make her look fat. But anyway, so that you see what I'm saying? First of all, don't help people lie. And you don't have to say everything, and it still is not lying. See? So here's what happens. Instead, we don't allow ourselves to be taken advantage of because we don't want conflict. Okay? So when somebody asks us something and we say yes, even though we really mean no, because we don't want them to feel bad or we don't want the conflict that will come from it, no. That doesn't help. When you say everything is all right in your life, when it's not. How are things going? Oh, everything's great. When it's not. See, what happens is it's unhealthy to let others take advantage of you because you don't want the conflict that you expect ahead of time if you speak up. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to keep revisiting the same thing over and over again. Well, the only way you can be assured of revisiting something that you don't like about your friend or your spouse or somebody at work over and over again is if you don't address it, if you don't speak up. See, what happens is when you hide what you really think from other people, what you're doing is something else besides hiding. What you're doing is you're making it less likely that you're going to be your best true self. You're going to reach the potentials that you have, that God has instilled in you. See, if you don't reveal yourself to others, you can't reveal yourself to yourself. And so much of what you could be will never be forced by necessity to come forward. You could be so much more if you just stop lying to yourself about how things are going in your life. So seek the truth. Okay? We did an exercise, my friends and I, years ago. I said, well, let's have life sayings. So, sometimes you've heard of that, with Bible verses. This is my life Bible verse, right? Well, we did life sayings, and mine was, and still is, seek the truth at all possible costs with courage and consideration and lead others to do the same. Now, let me say it slower. Seek the truth at all possible cost with courage and consideration and lead others to do the same. See, when we seek the truth, what happens is we begin to speak the truth. And I add courage and consideration because it takes courage to speak the truth. It's a lot easier to just let things flow and let it go, even though we don't realize that in the future it's just going to be way worse. But I also include consideration. Speak the truth in a way that the truth is received. Because as human beings, we set up walls instantly if somebody is being critical to us or if somebody is making us feel less of ourselves. So what does that mean? I got to be in a relationship. I got to earn your trust to be able to speak the truth into your life in a way that doesn't make you put up a wall. I learned that with my teacher and mentor, Dallas Willard. He would never, ever criticize anything I had to say. And others Dallas has been their teacher, they say the same thing. It's funny, we all found out the same thing. He never would criticize you if you said something stupid, okay? But this is how he would do it. If we were talking about a theological issue and he knew that I was wrong, and he was right, actually, here's what he would say. He'd say, Dana, let's think deeply about this. But what he didn't realize is that when he said, let's think deeply about this, I'm really saying, oh, crap, what did I say? My mother-in-law does the same thing. If my mother-in-law doesn't like something, she'll say, that's interesting. But bless her heart and bless Dallas Willard's heart. It does help because then I'm not on the defensive. That's interesting. Okay, Mom. But that's the thing. We want to be able to speak with each other. We have to be in relationship with each other. And we seek the truth. You can cultivate your conscience. Listen to your conscience. You can you're a human being. You're not an animal like other animals. We're unique because we're created in God's image. That means we can think about things without doing it. So we could play scenarios on. We could take different scenarios in our mind and think them through. And we could talk to each other about that. Would this be a good idea for me to do this? For me to do that? You see what I'm saying? It's like animals will just, boom, they'll just do it instinctively. But humans can think. And we can have a whole bunch of fictional stories going on in our minds saying, okay, now if I do that, this is going to happen. If I do that, this might happen. And we can talk to somebody that we trust and say, here's where I'm looking. Here's what I'm thinking. So listen to your conscience and find a trusted friend. Let go of worrying about the outcome. See, truth has a price. Something that you confront immediately, it might cause a lot of tension and so forth. But look at it this way. If you confront something immediately and then it's over, soon things get better. Always. See, in the long run, truth never makes it worse. Short term, yeah, but not long term. Falsehood has a delayed price, and if it doesn't make it worse now, it'll make it worse down the road. Not the same as truth. Speaking the truth is good. It might cause you to be uncomfortable at the beginning, but soon the truth wins out. Jesus said, let your no be a no, and your yes be a yes. Okay? If no means no, then say no. If yes means yes, say yes. You don't have to make up a whole bunch of excuses why you said no or why you said yes. It's enough just to let the word suffice. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't pretend that everything is okay if it's not okay. Aim for the truth. You see, when I think about the truth of myself and you thinking about the truth of yourself, here's something that's so important, and that's what you think about yourself might be wrong. You are not what you think you are. So don't sacrifice what you could be under the power of God with what you think you are now. So quite often, in particular as we get older, we get worse and worse in terms of cutting up on ourselves and putting ourselves down in our own minds. And not only that, we get cranky because everything hurts. So we're cranky and we're lying to ourselves. Great. That makes us a lot of fun to hang around with. But see, naturally, as a natural human being, you're going to live in your past and you're going to live in your present. But the thing is because of Jesus Christ in our lives, who says to us that if you follow my ways and my truth, your life will be enhanced. You will seek God's kingdom and everything else will be given to you. This Jesus, he says, you know what? Don't sacrifice what you could be for who you are now. Move forward. Aim high. There's no reason that we have to live in the present or the past when we're contemplating the future. In fact, we are all, I guess you could call it, we're all potential heroes in life. As we contemplate our future, as we lift up and aim higher and higher, we become the kind of people who don't choose to lie. if you seek the truth, it's like a diamond that's being tempered and clarified. And God creates new life in us. And God calls us to this adventure. It's an adventure of a great life and a meaningful life. And I call it an adventure too, because it's like an adventure isn't something that's easy and something that gives me quick happiness. No, an adventure is something to strive for, to aim high, and to move towards. And there's nothing more unpredictable than what happens when you don't lie. Think about that statement. There's nothing more unpredictable than what happens when you don't lie. Changes in our lives, changes in the lives of those around us, changes in how we react, changes in how other people react to us. When you tell the truth or you just don't lie, wow, what will happen is you'll encounter the best of who you are. You'll force yourself to become who you might be. So tell the truth, or at least don't lie.